Welcome to The Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering this week and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Westwood, and I'm here today with Editor-in-Chief Hugo Gurdon. And Hugo, you wrote a column for the Examiner this week in which you describe an opportunity for conservatives that's presented by the fact that the left is increasingly dedicated to a narrative at the expense of actual facts. Describe what you meant by that.
Yes, I think there's a great opportunity for a conservative to succeed politically by the simple process of telling the truth. The reason that I thought about that just recently was listening to President Biden and Nancy Pelosi trying to persuade people that their enormous spending bill, which is holed up in Congress, was going to be free. There was no cost to it. The truth is that a bill that costs $3.5 trillion costs $3.5 trillion. It isn't free simply because you're paying for it with the biggest tax hike in history. And so it got me thinking about how there's so much that we are asked to believe which we know to be false. To take an example, the crime figures came out just the other day. And they show a 30% increase in the murder rate. 56% of murder victims are now black people. And we are asked, nevertheless, to believe that the real danger to the black community is from rogue police who are somehow out to get black people and systemically racist. The real threat to black community is black on black crime. And the narrative is, from the left, is a completely false one about the real danger being from white policemen and not dealing with the facts. I think that there's an enormous opportunity for someone who can come out and is going to take a lot of criticism from the left for, going to be absolutely excoriated by the left for telling the truth. But I think that the public wants to be told the truth. And so I think that there's a great deal of possibility for a conservative to make political strides as long as he's prepared to do that.
Why do you think Donald Trump, who is really regarded by his supporters as a truth teller of sorts, was ultimately not able to take advantage of this opportunity?
Well, people used to say about Trump, the people who liked Donald Trump would say he tells it like it is. And to an extent, he would tell it like it is in terms of some of the nonsense that comes from the left wing, the kind of thing that you and I have just been talking about. He would slap down left-wing nostrums and left-wing rhetoric, and people loved him for that. The problem was that he had an entirely casual relationship with the truth himself. His rhetoric was absolutely littered with ignorant and lazy falsehood. So, he couldn't put himself forward as a truth teller because he was constantly, telling falsehoods himself. And people eventually got fed up of that, and they got fed up with many other things about Donald Trump. So he couldn't possibly present himself in that way. But the fact that he saw the opportunity to and rode a kind of political wave with people who were just relieved by the idea of someone who they thought was telling the truth and telling it like it is, in fact, leads to the kind of column that I was writing, which is the yearning for someone who'll just speak plainly.
This past week, we also heard the Biden administration's top military advisors testify on Capitol Hill, and it emerged that they contradicted during that testimony claims that Biden made about the advice he received prior to the withdrawal. Yeah. What did that testimony reveal, and what do you think the biggest takeaway there was?
Well, it's another example of really egregious falsehood being perfectly clear coming from this administration. As you say, the generals testified contradicting the president. They made it plain that before the debacle of our American withdrawal from Kabul and from Afghanistan, they had conveyed to the president that they thought it was much better not to scuttle away, and they should leave 2,500 troops there, leave the troops that were there, so they could have an orderly withdrawal. Now, President Biden, in his interview with George Stephanopoulos, when things were going wrong in Afghanistan, said he had not been given that advice so far as he could recall. And what you're hearing there, when you hear a politician say, oh, not that I can remember, not that I can recall, it's actually a tell. It's like, you know that they're trying to conceal something. President Clinton, for example, used the phrase, I can't recall or I don't remember 110 times when testifying to the grand jury in the Monica Lewinsky investigation. Hillary Clinton used the same sort of phrasing 30 to 40 times when talking to the FBI about her secret server and private email. When a politician denies something and then adds, so far as I can remember, you know what they're doing is telling a lie but trying to give themselves plausible deniability. So it's just another example of why the country wants a truth teller.
Well, Hugo, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
You can get more writing from Hugo and the rest of the commentary team at WashingtonExaminer.com.